This video is powered by the pros at Pascal Air Plumbing and Electric. Arkansas owned, Arkansas operated. GoPascal.com.
Well, doubleheader of Arkansas Razorback Athletics today. Liberty Bowl 4:30. Basketball at 8 o'clock with Arkansas taking on LSU at the PMAC. And Matt Zimmerman is in Baton Rouge. He's on the call today with Phil Brame, and we appreciate his time here on an early edition of Halftime. Zim, how are you? How's Baton Rouge today, and how was it last night?
Oh, it was awesome. It's always good to come down here, and of course it's a pretty good sized city, and it's the quietest I've ever seen it because there's no students here, and although it's a city that still rolls pretty good without their students, that's obviously a big hit, just like it is for any SEC type school, and so it's a little bit quieter, but it's nice. Hey, we went to walk-ons last night, had a good meal, and the team was in really good spirits. Got to shoot for about an hour or so in the Pete Maravich Assembly Center. It hadn't changed any. It's still the same. And so it was good for those guys to get some shots up in there. Practiced in Fayetteville and then had that shoot around last night. They get a lot of shots up, which is important. And, hey, we got a kind of a long day today, kind of waiting around for 8 o'clock tip.
Yeah, maybe you get a chance to watch a little bit of the Liberty Bowl.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
How long you guys get to watch? Because with an 8 o'clock tip, it's like I know you got to get to the arena at least like 90 minutes before the game. Yeah,
coaches, like most coaches, he's going to want to be there, rolling in there by 6:30. But it's funny with Coach Muss. This is already fourth year running around with Coach Muss on these trips, and we very seldom roll in there an hour and a half before. It'll be more like an hour and 45 minutes before. They'll generally leave early. He'll get that bus loaded and he's ready to go, and generally will leave earlier. Football games at 4:30. I mean, I'm going to want to if the bus is supposed to leave like at 6:10, which means we're probably going to leave about 6. So by the time you head to the lobby, I'll start heading down that lobby about 5:45. So we'll have about an hour and 15 minutes to watch the game in your hotel room a little bit or downstairs, and then head down and go to the game.
Coach Z, Matt Jones here, man. Good to talk to you again.
What's up, Matt? I ain't talked to you in a minute.
That's what I was telling Phil, man. It's always good to have you on the show. Yeah. It's been a while, man. I really like this Razorback roster, and I like our guards. And that being said, when I look at LSU, if we see LSU, what do they do well? What are y'all? What's their big thing that we're going to have to take away tonight?
Well, the thing that they've done the best, so they're 11-1, Matt, and they've had some pretty good wins, but they've bought a lot of games. I mean, it's like everybody in the SEC, they buy a lot of games, mm-hmm. right? And really, they've not played a ton of games other than that. And when they did play a couple Power Fives, that's where they had a lot of issues scoring. So that's been their problem. And they beat Wake Forest on December the 10th, which is the day Arkansas played OU. They won 72-70 and played really well. And in that game, they moved the ball pretty good. KJ Williams, their 6'10" transfer from Murray State, played very well. And they did a good job rebounding. And then they turned in and they lost to Wake Forest. They beat Wake Forest, but their one loss this year was back in November to Kansas State. And in that one, it was 61-59. I watched that game a couple of days ago. You talk about two teams just really couldn't hardly get any good. They couldn't score. Yeah. And it was pretty good defense. I guess both teams were playing hard. They were competing. It was a neutral court, and they played very hard, but they couldn't. They scored 59 points, and I think that's the key of everything tonight. We've seen how good this Razorback defense is, and if this defense is locked in on, these aren't big, huge natural scores at LSU. This isn't an LSU team that's going to score 80 a game in the SEC. They're not. They just don't have. They can score. They get hot. But that's going to be the biggest thing. And, defense travels pretty good. You don't ever know about your three-point shooting. You don't know if you're going to get ever a call when you're driving to the basket. You don't know, if you're going to hit all these tough driving layups. Sometimes all that don't go on the road as it does at home. But the defenses can be the same. I think the crowd will probably be just okay. It's far from a sellout. I was looking at their stuff. They've got plenty of seats available. Their students are gone. So it's a great opportunity. And I know defense, Razorback defense versus versus LSU's scoring will be the biggest thing in how this game turns out.
Yeah, it's tough to win on the road. And then last couple years having this type of success, and then this year the team's a little bit different. And does it seem like they still have a bullseye on, even though it's a different team? And how do y'all deal with that?
I think this team is like you said. It is a lot different. I was just noticing them on the road last night. How last year and even the year before, his team was seemed more serious, but this team is fun. Not those teams weren't, but these guys like to laugh. They like to give each other a hard time. They seem to get along.
They look
so
like they
well.
want to play anybody anywhere, Coach. Like when I watch
they really
them,
do.
Yeah.
I've been with teams, Matt, where the night before you could feel a little bit of a tension, or you could feel maybe a little worry or stress of the game coming up. And these guys, they're very carefree. And part of that's being so young, right? And the Mitchell twins are older, and they're a little bit more serious type of guys, but they're fun, and they've got good personalities, and it's just a team that's loose. It's a loose team, and you got Devo and Kamani that have been around. Those guys are joking around, and they get serious. They get serious when it's time to get serious, and I like that about it. It's just a good makeup. You weren't sitting there last night at the arena when they were shooting, feeling the stress of the game. And I've been a part of a lot of teams where you feel that every second. And I love that. And I think coaches, I'm not saying he's mellowed, but I think he's got he's a little bit more laid back with his team because of all the talent. And I really believe that. We're used to seeing him run around and do all his stuff. And he's still going to do some of that, but I think he's been very relaxed, much more relaxed, even coming back from Maui. I think that there's been a little change in coach somewhat, and it's been good. And this team is really gelled around him and around that. And this is, and here you go, Matt and Phil. This is a team that wants to win the SEC. And he just talked about that. And the last 2 years we couldn't win it because of bad starts, and we couldn't catch up. And we were so good in February and March, but we fell so far behind. Well, now everyone's 0-0. Have a great start, and this team will have a really good chance to win the SEC.
Well, I mean, you mentioned the talent, and this LSU team is not one of the SEC teams that can match up in terms of talent with Arkansas, like a Kentucky or Alabama, Tennessee, those kind of teams. And, Arkansas is a 4-point favorite, according to Bet Saracen.
On the road, yeah.
That says a lot. And knowing that you are not going to play Nick Smith in this game. So, I mean, there isn't one player that dominates over this team, but if there is a guy who drives the engine, who's like the conductor of the train, it's Anthony Black.
Right.
He is he's better than I expected, and his shot is better than I thought too. And it doesn't even feel like maybe he has scratched the surface of what he can do, but knowing Nick isn't going to play, I don't know, the board burden isn't the proper word, but maybe a little bit more of that goes on someone like an Anthony Black.
Absolutely, and he has played so well. He's even been better than advertised, as you said, and he's just always under control. He's smooth, he's fluid. He's a lot like Lee Mayberry, who was 6'2". He's almost 6'8", and he just always makes the simple pass. He can make a very tough pass in traffic. He's great in transition. He's good in the half court. He nails his free throws.
He plays like a coach's son, doesn't he, Coach Z? Like, I don't know if he really is, but he does. Like, he's just very cerebral and the thing I love watching a guy that plays under control, he still beats people to the loose balls. He's still the first one there, and and he looks like he's gliding around. Yeah,
and Matt, I think you'll like this. And I coached high school basketball. I always loved my kids that played football. And
yes, sir.
He played a lot of football.
Yes.
And Anthony,
he's tough.
Kind of see that he's tough, and not that non-football kids aren't, but there is a difference.
Yes,
There's
sir.
100% a difference. And Anthony Black played a lot of football, and he's got that to him. He's not afraid of contact. He's the nicest kid off the court, just a really, really nice kid. But on the court, he don't mind hitting you, and that's why I think like when we went to Maui, we were all surprised that there was Anthony talking a little trash and kind of bowing up on guys and throwing his chest into guys. And he does have a lot of football in him. And I think that helps him as the point guard of this team. And I tell you what, he's a good player. He just knows how to play. I love it. And I think that he's always under control. We hadn't seen him get upset or mad or out of control yet. And most college basketball players, you see that at times, the emotions of the game. And he's not let that out any. And I think that's a positive thing. And this team's had, two good players not playing all the games, Trevin and Nick, and these guys hadn't missed a beat.
If you take out I was going to say, Phil, you take out Brazil, Anthony Black's leading the team in rebounding, assists, and steals. And I love that stat line about him. That he can do it. Blocks, too. He can do Mitchell's leading blocks, but he fills up the stat sheet, man. He's going to get 2 or 3 assists, 2 or 3 steals, 5 or 6 rebounds, and he's very efficient. He's fun to watch. Yeah,
no doubt. And it'll be good. And see, and switching back to LSU a little bit, when you're talking about Arkansas being the favorite, LSU is just, he had 0 people on the roster, by the middle of by early April.
Zim, it's nuts. You look at McMahon's roster. It's like, he's got 3 of his best players from Murray State. Little Rock's own Justice Hill running the point, the juice, and the top 6 scorers for LSU played for other Division I teams last year.
Yeah. And we say we've got another team, but we still have Devo and Kamani. We always have 2 or 3 or 4 that tie everything back together, and they didn't have that. And I think that's going to be telling for them as they get in the league. I look at Derek Fountain, I've always thought was a very talented player. He's a 6'10" kid from Mississippi. And he signed at Mississippi State. He was a recruited kid. And he could hardly ever play at Mississippi State in the 2 years he was there. Hardly could ever get on the floor. When he comes to LSU and he's starting, and he's one of their better players. And so I think that tells you a little bit about where they're trying to build. And, it'll be interesting tonight with Justice Hill. And, we took Coach Anderson's staff took a commitment from Justice, and he was in the 9th grade. And then he came up to Arkansas for a semester. He won that football state title, and then he didn't stay for his high school basketball season. He came to Fayetteville in January of 2019, and he was there that one semester. And then when Coach Musk came in, he left. So he's playing his home state, a place where he was actually on campus. So he'll be a motivated player too, right? And so all that'll be interesting to watch it play out tonight at the Maravich Assembly Center.
Zim, last thing, and then we'll let you go. I heard from a little birdie in a tree yesterday that you did the pregame interview with Eric Musselman, which is rare because it's always the play-by-play guy. But Phil Bream, I think, is calling the game with you, and I don't know if he was able to be at practice. So how'd the pregame interview with Musk go?
Well, it went well. Musk said I did a good job, so I appreciated that. But it was funny because typical Coach Musk fashion, we roll in there to shoot. We walk out on the court, and he said, "Z, let's go ahead and knock out the pregame interview. Let's get that done." And of course, Chuck's not with us, and Phil was flying in last night he lives in Winston-Salem, North Carolina. He works for Learfield, and I did a game with him back in 2018 on a Friday night in Bud Walton. They brought him in because Chuck was with football, and you must have been gone with a women's basketball trip because you weren't working football yet. But anyway, Phil's really good. And so I just I called Chuck real quick, and I said, I got to record this deal. And he said, just do it on your phone. So I just pulled my phone out and said, Coach, let's knock it out. And, it was about a 4-minute interview. And of course, how Coach Musk is. All you got needs about 3 or 4 questions, and he runs with it, So he's really good, but he wanted to knock it out. I think sometimes he likes to get it done, and that way you don't have to worry about it on game day. And a lot of times he has to do it on game day, but it's just one less thing he has to worry about. Get that out of the way.
Well, see, you and Coach Musk have something in common. 4 questions is 15 minutes, and you can leave it at that. Zim, we appreciate you, man. Missy here in Memphis. We'll see you back in Fayetteville soon.
All right, guys. All right, Phil. All right, Matt.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks, Coach.
Coach Matt Zimmerman. Yeah, media superstar as well as
he's the man. I like Coach Z.
Oh,
yeah. He would come on the show at the other station, Phil, and he always brought it like he did right there. I love talking with him.
Matt Zimmerman brings it everywhere he goes.
He don't know else out, right? He doesn't know anywhere else to go. Can't even talk anywhere else to do it.
I think it's called 1,000,000 miles a minute. And unfortunately, we won't have the call of basketball tonight, so if you want to hear it, I recommend using the Varsity Network app. It's put out by Learfield. All the Arkansas athletics broadcasts, baseball, women's basketball, football, what have you, all the coaches' shows are also there. If we don't have it on hitthatline.com. All right, we're back with more first quarter halftime-ish after this.
BetOnline remains your number one source for all your sports betting this season. Everything from the NFL and bowl season to esports. You'll find the latest odds, team matchup info, player news, and game trends at BetOnline. BetOnline features live betting, free contests, and live scores for almost any sport or game imaginable. We're the fastest and easiest way to bet on all your favorite leagues and events. Head to betonline.ag to join and receive a 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. Make sure to use the promo code BELIEVE to receive your rewards. That's BLEAV. BetOnline, where the game starts.